So now let's look at the first program that you might write with the RPI. So this is very simple to the LED program of the Arduino, which some of you have already done. But essentially what we want to do here is we want to switch on this LED. And we have connected it to the Raspberry Pi in this following fashion. And what's happening here is we have got the ground pin and we have got the GPIO 17 pin. And we would like to activate this LED by writing a Python program. So now the question is, what are the different steps you think we would need to include when we are writing program? For instance, what I'm trying to ask you is, if you had to write a pseudocode or an algorithm for switching on this LED using the Raspberry Pi, forget about the Python syntax and all that, what are the different steps that you would follow? Here, when you're working with the Raspberry Pi, it seems logical. First of all, you identify the channel. So you have identified it to be as GPIO 17. It is important to declare it as an output because the Raspberry Pi implicitly doesn't know that whether it is an input or an output, right? So you have to first declare it as an output, and then you can set it to you can set the output to a higher level, and then you can stop it. So you don't want to keep it on all the time, or if you want to keep it on all the time, you don't use stop. So that is the primary principle here. Now, if I had to write the Python program itself, right, how would that program look like? Okay, so first of all, you have to import the libraries that you want to use. So you want to use the GPIO library, so the RPI GPIO library. So you import the library first. Then you initialize the pin. So this is telling initialize the pin configuration. So now this is another thing which we didn't actually include here, right? We didn't think about here. But remember, I said that you have the pin out, you have the board pin numbers, and then you also have this convention, right? So GPIO 17 is, if you use GPIO 17 here, you can either call it as pin number 11, in which case you have to use a board numbering convention. Or if you want to say activate pin number 17, which is GPIO 17, then you have to use something called a Broadcom numbering. Now, remember that Broadcom is the name of that SoC chip, right? System on, what's that called? System on chip, right? So that is the name of the maker of that chip. So this follows the Broadcom numbering, and that's why what I'm going to do is I'm going to set GPIO to this Broadcom numbering mode. All right. Then you are identifying the channel, which one of you actually mentioned. Raman mentioned that yes, you have to identify the channel, and you configure the channels as inputs or outputs. So in this case, we want to configure it as an output. So that's why we have got this as channel 1 GPIO out. And now we write to the pin. So we want to switch on the LED. So we say channel 1 GPIO high, sleep for 1 second. We have imported this another function from the time library, which says that, okay, sleep for some time. So you can sleep 1. And then you again set it to go to low. And finally, you clean up whatever GPIO initializations you have done. So this cleans up the board. Otherwise, if you don't switch it off, you don't carry out the step, the LED will remain on, and the LED will always be configured as an output channel. So what you want to do is when you are exiting the program, you want to clean up whatever initializations you've done. So now you can see what are the differences from what we are logically thinking and what are the additional steps we have to do. So I would like you to look at the slide when you are seeing this presentation later, and try to map it again and to remember what are the different steps we are doing. So the most important one is, of course, initialization of the board numbering, and this is very important. And I'm constantly saying it is very important because if you, by some chance, use an output pin as an input pin or use a voltage pin or as an output, things can go wrong. So it is very important that you identify the board numbering convention very clearly. Okay. Right.